Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be showing you a really quick tool in terms of part formatting that I found that I think is just going to be amazing. Every time I go into Dorico and I start digging around, I find another cool feature that they've added that I thought, oh, why didn't I know that a week ago when I was working on a project? And this one to me I think is going to be really helpful, especially when you're making parts and things like that, where you really want to control items like the page layout, note spacing, and other things like that. So here we are with some really great engraving tools for Dorico Pro. As you can see here, I have my Masterpiece 2025 pulled up, and this is a little sample piece I wrote really quickly, just to kind of show you the way that these tools work. And there's some really specific use cases where I think this is going to be really important. So let's dive into the Engrave tab here. Now here in my Engrave tab, I have all my normal options that I'm used to seeing, and I can look and I can see my score looks pretty darn funky. I have everything spaced out really far, and some of the parts are kind of, it's a lot of lines for something quite so simple. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to show you how I'm going to condense the score, because parts of this I think are really easy to read if it was fully condensed into one line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under my layout options, and that is under the library window, but I'm actually using my Steam controller so I can hit one button and bring that up. You can check out my previous video on how to utilize a Steam controller if you're interested in adding that to your workflow. So from here, under the Players tab, you can see we have the option for condensing. And what condensing is it's going to take the note in the first part, the second part, and the third part, and it's going to push them together into one line so that they all appear as if they're written in one stave. So in this case, I'm going to enable condensing, which, because I have 3 flute parts in my masterpiece here, it's going to crush those 3 parts down into one line. Now you can see the result of that gave me everything on one page with a much better flow realistically. But there are some things that I don't like, one of which is, as a player, having to read the middle note of a bunch of 16th notes in a run would just be miserable. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to break apart that section of condensing, but keep the rest. And Dorico gives us that option. So if I highlight the first note grouping here by clicking on the stem, and if I go under the Engrave window, you will see this Condensing Change menu option. Once the window is open, you can see it gives me a giant list of what to do next. And basically what you have is a bunch of radial buttons to turn on and off certain elements of the condensing. To start working with this list, although it seems a little redundant, the first thing we have to do is we have to choose our condensing group, which is this little checkbox that's next to the name. From here, it's going to activate these little radial buttons so I can choose what I want to do here. And you can do things like allow whole phrase unisons and mid-phrase unisons and unlimited pitch crossings and other things. So basically, you're overriding the way it is doing our condensing. But in this case, what I really want to do is I actually want to uncondense the music for a short amount of time so that I can see all 3 flute parts for those 2 measures of 16th notes. So down here, you can see this manual condensing, and here, if I check this, I can no condensing, and when I hit apply or OK, you will see that for those 2 bars, it broke apart all of my notes. And it will continue breaking them apart until I do another condensing change, which I'd like to do here on this note. So I'm going to go ahead and select this pitch here, and I'm going to go back to the Engrave menu, and I'm going to go to my condensing change, and this time I'm going to select my group again, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to go to this manual condensing, or to reset. Reset will just put it back to the way Dorico had it, which I think in this case will work really well. Now you might think, well, wait a minute, it didn't condense this bar, and that's because it was attached to these 2 measures that are not condensed. So to make this measure join this system, I'm going to have to put in a system break. And see, you can see now with a system break, I have a condensed bars here at the beginning, condensed bars here at the end, but in the middle, now I have them broken apart so I can see the parts so that it's easier for a player to read off of this score. Okay, so the next tool I'd like to show you is the custom note spacing. It's very similar to this condensing change, but in this case, what we're going to do is we're actually going to make it so that we can allow certain measures in our system to stretch while other ones contract to make room. Okay, now with these extra measures of 16th notes, we've created a little bit of a problem for ourselves. The big issue is everything looks totally smashed together. Now, I could go in and I could just make the rastral size smaller so that all the notes fit. But the problem with that is the music starts to get really small on the page and kind of hard to read. So what I'd really like to do is I'd like to make the measures with fewer notes smaller so that the measures with more notes in them can get larger. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come up to this first bar here, and again, I'm in the Engrave tab, and I'm going to go under Engrave, then I'm going to go to the Note Spacing Change. And from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable this default spacing for crotchets, which is basically your overall spacing of your music, and I'm going to lower this down to 2. And then under my custom spacing ratio, I'm going to go ahead and lower this one as well, just to kind of crush everything together a little bit more. So with these two things put on, I'm going to hit OK, and you'll see that the first bar actually got skinnier, which allowed the second two bars to spread out a little bit. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my 16th notes, and I'm actually going to go under that Engrave, but this time I'm going to reset the spacing options because I want it to go back to kind of more normal looking notes. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to put in another spacing change here at the end of the bar to make that one look similar to bar 1. Okay, now you might have think that looked weird. It basically just made the two measures in the middle get extra wide. But this should allow us to make our rastral size a little bit larger so that I can blow the notes up a little bit. And you can see I was able to come up a whole rastral size, and the music is still very readable because I allowed the computer to crush the bars that really didn't need any extra padding, and it gave extra room so it could inflate the ones that really needed it. Now, Dorico is pretty darn good with its automatic spacings, but I think you'll find once in a while you could get an extra bar on a line that would really help out your overall look of your part, especially if you're doing something complicated like a solo piece with a lot of fast-moving notes. So hopefully you'll find these two tools useful. I think these are going to be really impactful for my work, and I've kind of seemed like they're a little bit of a secret. I really hadn't found them until today, so I'm really excited to start incorporating these into my music. So thanks so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, please subscribe, like the videos, it's really helpful. You can also check out my affiliate links for some of the products that I use, as well as some of the things I'll be working with in the near future. I'm not an influencer, meaning I'm not trying to get you to buy any of these, but if you watch one of these videos and you think, man, that would be really handy, it's just a way of supporting the channel if you were going to buy the item anyway. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.